want to begin, of course, by recognizing the Epstein survivors who were here today. Virginia Giuffre's family, who traveled here because they believe, as I do, that what happened to Virginia and to all the victims here today and throughout the world must finally lead to change. And all you have to do is look at the faces of these beautiful women and just have total empathy for what they've gone through, admiration for their courage, and anger about what happened to them. So, thank you. Today, we're here to do something simple and long overdue. Today, I'm introducing Virginia's law, legislation to end statute of limitation barriers that have kept survivors of sexual violence from justice far too long, and to create new legal avenues to pursue justice. Because justice should not expire. Justice should not expire. And because for survivors, healing does not run on a government clock, does it? I'm also so proud to be joined by Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez, not just chairwoman of the Democratic Women's Caucus, but she's always been a fierce advocate for survivors and a partner in this fight. She's a champion and a fighter, and that's what a bill like this requires, a fighter who will relentlessly push for the cause of justice. Justice. That's what we demand, justice. And here is World Without Exploitation and Sigrid McCauley, whose work, along with the survivors, helped shape this legislation. We thank her. The bill exists. Why? Why does the bill exist? Because people refuse to accept silence as the end of the story. It's that simple. It cannot be when something this dastardly and this terrible and this heart-wrenching happens. For years, survivors of Epstein's abuse were ignored. They were doubted, they were silenced, they were dismissed. And even when the truth finally came out, even when the world finally listened, too many survivors were still told by the law, it's too late, your justice has expired. Not because the harm wasn't real, not because the abuse didn't happen, but because the system ran out the clock. When they were told, it's too late, your justice has expired, we aimed to change that. And that's what we're trying to do today. When you say the system ran out the clock, tough rocks, too bad, too late, that's not justice. That's a system that protects abusers by waiting survivors out. Our law, Virginia's law, changes that. It allows survivors to seek accountability when they're ready, when they're strong enough, supported enough, able to face the weight of civil litigation. Sometimes it takes years to recuperate from the horror that occurred. Why should the government say, well, we're setting an arbitrary time when you are able to pursue your case? Our law makes clear that abusers and those that enable them cannot escape responsibility by running out the clock. It makes clear that the law will empower survivors to pursue justice, and it recognizes something survivors have always known. Time does not erase harm. Time does not erase harm. Jeffrey Epstein depended on silence and fear, on a system that protected power instead of protecting people. Today we are saying no more. This bill carries Virginia Giuffre's name because she spoke when so many were told not to. And because her story and the story of the survivors standing here today. We salute you again, all of you, for your courage. These nice faces. It shouldn't have happened to you. It shouldn't have happened to you. So, no survivor should ever be told again that the law failed them and that time mattered more than truth. The survivors of Jeffrey Epstein have waited long enough. Virginia waited long enough. The time for justice is now, and Congress must act. So now let me call on our great leader in the House, Representative Teresa Leger Fernandez. Go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Leader Schumer, for your amazing work on this issue, which is not new. You have championed these issues for many, many, many years in the House and in the Senate. But I want to also acknowledge the survivors. We have shed tears together because what happened was horrible. The cover-up and the abuse that continued by refusing to acknowledge the pain and the crimes and everything that happened was also an injustice. And that's what we are here to do today, to say that justice delayed is indeed justice denied. And one of the lines that the survivor shared with me early in the many meetings we've had, and it's a chilling warning that Jeffrey told them. He gave them this warning. He told the women and young girls, I have the government, I have the banks. In other words, you are powerless. Imagine hearing that from the man who abused you. Imagine being a young girl, a young woman already traumatized and being told that the system, the government, the institutions, the courts, the powerful are on his side. That he and those to whom you were trafficked are untouchable. That the world is made up of the powerful who are above the law, above reproach, and you are disposable as a mere object of sexual use and abuse. And for too long, those sexual predators have been protected by their wealth and power. And now, with the help of Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, the pedophiles and sexual predators are being protected by our government. But today, we're one step closer to proving Epstein wrong. But this bill is bigger than Epstein. It's bigger than the abuse that the victims endured. It takes years for victims of abuse to feel safe enough to come forward. And time should never be a weapon in the abuser's arsenal. Virginia's law eliminates the statute of limitations for key federal civil claims brought by survivors of trafficking and sexual exploitation. It includes a look-back window, so survivors who were previously barred, who were told, no, you do not have access to the courtroom, so they have time to now go back and seek justice. And it clarifies that traffickers cannot escape accountability by committing abuses in another jurisdiction. You don't get to escape prosecution by simply putting predators and victims on a plane to a private island, or a mansion in Florida, or a ranch in New Mexico. Because justice should not depend on a calendar. Justice should not depend on geography, and it should never depend on how powerful your abuser is. To Virginia Giuffre's family, thank you, thank you, thank you for letting us use her name in this law. It's her courage that we are honoring today with Virginia's law. Her courage unlocked the first set of gates that were protecting the rich and powerful. This bill will unlock the doors to the courthouse for the survivors. And to every Epstein co-conspirator and sexual predator, we're coming for you. And to Donald Trump and Pam Bondi, how dare you? How dare you use the Department of Justice, a government agency which by its name is intended to bring justice, to use it to prevent justice, to protect yourself and that predatory circle of abusers. And so I join with the senator and with the leader. Yes, let's pass this bill. Let's prove Epstein wrong. And now I want to recognize, as I was talking to Sky and Amanda Roberts, we talked about how they couldn't have imagined that this day would come. And we talked about how, yes, it's been a long journey. But before Virginia, there was one of those big arroyos or chasms that you see in New Mexico, right? There was no way to cross it. But what Virginia did was build a bridge. And now we are crossing that bridge because of the bravery and the words and the wisdom. And I'm sorry for the loss of Virginia. But she has left something so powerful for all victims. And so I now like to recognize Sky and Amanda Roberts.
That was a tearjerker. I am the crier in my family. I'm just going to throw that out there. So, all right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sky Roberts, and I am the brother of Virginia Roberts Giuffre. I am deeply honored to stand here today alongside some of the most extraordinary people you will ever meet, including World Without Exploitation, Congressman Chuck Schumer, Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez, survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, and the legendary Sigrid Macaulay. No. Known to many of us as Siggy. I want to begin with a single word. A word that meant everything to my sister. A word we will not stop fighting for until real justice is served. And that word is change. Virginia's dream was to inspire and empower survivors to come forward. In a world that too often turns away from abuse and pushes it into the shadows, she wanted to bring light. That light is change. Virginia's dream was to inspire and empower survivors to come forward. One of the main missions of her nonprofit, SOAR, was to eliminate the statute of limitations on adult sex trafficking. She talked about it all the time while elevating the voices of survivors, alongside her publicist and dear friend, Deanie von Muffling. Today, we give Virginia her voice back. We amplify the voices of survivors around the world. Today, we send a clear message to perpetrators everywhere by introducing Virginia's Law. We are introducing Virginia's Law because survivors deserve justice, not expiration dates. Change must mean justice. Not someday, not in speeches, not in private settlements, justice in law, justice in court, and justice in the form of consequence. Virginia's Law is more than legislation. It is a change in the truest form. It challenges how we see, how we confront, and how we respond to sexual abuse and sex trafficking, not just in theory, but in reality. We do not take this moment lightly. We are holding an overwhelming mix of grief, loss, and pride. And if our voices shake and our tears fall, it is only because of the depth of our love for our sister. Grief without action is another kind of silence. And Virginia did not survive what she survived just to be silenced again. And with that, I'd like to turn that over to my wife, Amanda.
Virginia was a passionate voice, a fierce warrior, and an unwavering advocate for survivors everywhere. She named what others were afraid to name. She stood up to wealth, status, and power, and she proved that having money does not guarantee exoneration in the eyes of the poor. Virginia's purpose was always to create lasting change. Her truth and resilience helped spark a monumental shift in how survivors are seen and heard. But she also knew cultural change is not enough. She saw the legal gaps survivors fall through, and she was determined to close them at the legislative level. Her wish was clear: to reform the statute of limitations. When a child, teenager, or adult experiences sexual abuse, it is a profound violation of both the body, mind, and spirit. The mind often protects itself in the only ways it can, through denial, disassociation, and silence. It can take years, even decades, before the walls of trauma begin to crack, and a victim can truly understand what happened. It takes time to unlearn grooming. It takes time to release the shame that never belonged to them in the first place. Statistically, many survivors do not disclose until around the age of 40. Virginia understood this not as a theory, but as a lived experience. Virginia's law does more than honor her legacy. It protects the future of every survivor. It says legislatively and legally, we see you, we believe you, and what happened to you matters. It says you deserve the right to seek justice, no matter the status, wealth, or power of the person who harmed you, and no matter when the abuse occurred. To every member of Congress, mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers, we ask you to stand with us, stand with survivors, and say no more. No more silence, no more systems that protect the powerful and deny justice to everyone else. No more laws that treat survivors as though time can erase harm. Pass Virginia's law. Let this be the moment this country chooses accountability over denial, courage over comfort, and justice over obstacles. Page 361, Nobody's Girl. We need to make it easier to punish those who victimize others. Siggy and I want to eliminate laws that limit the period in which survivors can seek justice for their abusers. Virginia put that into writing, and we're here to put that into law.
And with that, Siggy, that's what we're here to do today.
Such courage.
Now everybody knows my nickname. This is really a watershed moment for survivor rights, the announcement of Virginia's law. And as you heard today, the genesis of that law is to get rid of the statute of limitations so that survivors can work on their own timeline. With the passage of this law, no longer can abusers weaponize the clock. Survivors can act when they're ready to act. As you heard, and as Virginia and I both experienced together, many survivors don't come to terms with their abuse until many, many years later. And they deserve the right to be able to bring an action when they're ready. That's what this law does. It is heartbreaking to be here announcing this without her. But I will tell you that her voice is being heard loud and clear. She is saying, all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, all Americans, need to come together and pass this law. It's the right thing to do. It's the thing we need to do now. So please, pass Virginia's law. Now I'm gonna let Rebecca Zipkin come up from World We. Without this group, we wouldn't be here, so we're all very grateful for that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Zipkin. I'm the Policy Director at World Without Exploitation, and we are the largest national anti-human trafficking and sexual exploitation coalition in the country. And we have had the true privilege of working closely with the survivors who are here today, and Sky and Amanda, to push forward advocacy to release the Epstein files. And today we are privileged to be here to speak in support of Virginia's law. Thank you so much to Leader Schumer and Congresswoman Leisure Fernandez for their championing of this legislation. Today we're here to support Virginia's law, named Virginia Roberts Giuffre, whose courage helped expose one of the most far-reaching sex trafficking networks in modern history. Virginia's story is not just about one man, it's about a system of wealth, power, and protection that allowed abuse to continue for years while survivors were silenced, disbelieved, or legally shut down. Virginia spoke the truth, and she paid the price for it. She did so knowing that accountability might never come, not because the abuse didn't happen, but because the law said it was too late. That is why eliminating the statute of limitations for civil claims by adult survivors of sex trafficking is so critical. Trafficking is not a single moment of harm. It is a prolonged, coercive, and deeply traumatizing experience. Survivors often cannot name what happened to them as abuse until years later. They may be threatened, manipulated, financially dependent, or psychologically trapped. Many are children when the abuse begins. Others are groomed into believing they consented when in reality, consent was impossible. The statute of limitations does not account for this reality. Instead, it functions as a legal shield for abusers and the institutions that enabled them. It cuts off accountability before survivors ever had the meaningful chance to come forward. Virginia's law recognizes a simple truth. Healing does not follow a legal deadline. Eliminating the statute of limitations does not guarantee survivors will sue. It simply gives them the choice. It restores agency, and it sends a clear message that time does not erase responsibility. Jeffrey Epstein did not operate alone. He relied on enablers, the men who were the buyers, the exploiters, and the abusers. Many of those individuals and institutions have never been held accountable, not because the facts are unknown, but because the courthouse doors have been closed. When civil claims are barred by time, accountability disappears. Virginia's law changes that. It tells survivors you were not too late, you were harmed, and the law will no longer be used to protect those who harmed you. And it tells the public that justice does not disappear simply because an arbitrary amount of time has passed. Justice is not about convenience, it's about courage. Passing Virginia's law is not about reopening the past, it's about finally confronting it. And we owe survivors, all of the survivors here today, and the thousands around the world, nothing less.
Let me say to Sky and Amanda. So the Bible tells us when something terrible happens to people, the natural inclination is to curse the darkness, to turn inward, be angry. But the Bible also tells us it's like angelic to light a candle, to create light, to prevent what happened to your loved one from it happening to anyone else. You are lighting a candle. We thank you. Okay. We'll take questions on this subject. Yes.
Thank you very much. Mark Stone from Sky News in the United Kingdom. Thank you for inviting us here. That was a very powerful news conference. I have a question for you, Mr. Roberts, if that's right, and also for you, Senator Schumer. Mr. Roberts, the photograph of
I think he should show up in front of our Congress and answer questions. I think that he has a lot of questions he needs to answer, and he has been exploited through these files to have inconsistencies in his own messaging. So I want today to be about Virginia's law, to not allowing this to happen again, but to Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor to be specific, he needs to show up. He needs to show up, and he needs to answer questions in front of our Congress.
Thank you, sir. And Senator Schumer, what
I
was
agree.
your message to?
He ought to,
Sorry, sir.
same thing as what Sky said. He ought to show up and show up now. Yes.
I have a question for you both and the survivors in general. Do you believe that current officials, including Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, should resign given their proven ties and connections to Epstein?
I think we are far behind the UK when it comes to social justice. I think that
Sorry, 2 minutes.
Okay. I think that we are starting to see a form of social justice here, and this is exactly why Virginia's law is so important, because legislatively it says that they can no longer hide, and that's where we're going to focus, the change that we can create.
Yes.
Mr. Leader, I'm wondering when you plan to go down to the Department of Justice to view some of the files and what you plan to look for when you go down.
Look, the whole file should be released completely. We got them to agree to let people come down. We have to make an appointment, and a number of my colleagues and I are considering doing that very soon.
What are you going to look for when you do?
Everything. What's not disclosed, period. Yes.
Can you outline how this legislation builds on the bill that President Biden signed a few years ago? Were there shortcomings that this tries to fix? And you also mentioned new avenues for legal action. Can you kick off any of those?
Yeah, the bottom line is we want this to be, our law has no loopholes. We don't want any loopholes in this law, because the lawyers for those who did such terrible things will exploit them. That's number one. And number two, we're going to pursue every legal avenue we can. Okay? Thank you, Effie. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Last answer for Teresa.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to recognize that we need to provide protections and an avenue to the courtroom for everybody, whether you were a minor or an adult when you were abused. And we do need to go and see those files. I will be going, I believe, tomorrow morning. But the idea that we have to make an appointment and that they're scrutinizing and that they have failed to disclose under the Epstein Transparency Act half of the files. And when they've done so heavily redacted, protecting the predators and exposing their survivors. So we need to call out those actions by the Department of Justice at all times.
We are not going to rest till all the files are released, period. Whatever means we have to pursue. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you, everybody.